Good morning, everyone. You like my Halloween costume? Is it too subtle? Synagogue musician from Cole. No, anyway. It is my great pleasure this morning. Our prelude is being brought to us by Joel and Grace. And add one more thing to Joel's incredible collection of talents. This morning, he's playing harp. Please welcome.
You want to give me an A way on the chart?
Thank you so much for greeting us today with a balm. There is so much going on in our week, in this week, so much in the world, so much in our individual lives, and we gather as a balm to one another. Thank you for bringing us together that way today.
Welcome to all of you, whether you are longstanding members, new members, guests, friends, whatever. We are so happy to have you here with us this morning. Should we take a moment and greet our online guests? For those of you on Zoom, let us see your Sunday best PJs, if you don't mind. Everybody knows what to do. They're turning and waving. Good morning. Whether you're here physically or you are joining us on Zoom or at some point in the future, we are so glad that you are with us today.
Today we are coming to the end of the month, and that means the end of our Desert Ritual Year theme of grief. And it has been a heavy month, not just because we have welcomed the topic of grief among us, but because there is so much heartache that we experience in our days this month and at this time.
Before we move on into our service, we'd like to take a quick moment to extend some gratitude for everyone who makes these services possible. I am Robin Bausell. I'm your pastoral associate for today. Next to me, of course, is our minister, the Reverend Matthew Funk Crary. We've got Chris Tackett, our wonderful music director, over there joining us. And our crew behind the scenes, we've got Alex, we've got Lee, we've got Todd, and we've got Monica. We've got your greeters at the door, and of course, hospitality that makes the service after the service so delightful.
In addition, you will have our choir singing for us today. We've had, of course, Joel and Grace, and my son, Robin, and that gets confusing during planning. My son, Robin, will be having his first joining and in leading a service today with us as well. So we're grateful to all of those who are participating today. As we come to this end of this month, we want to recognize that our sub-theme that has been underlying all of this has been the arts. That in grief, there is poetry, there is theater, there is music that helps us come back together and serves as a balm to one another. And there is joy and laughter.
We light our chalice this morning with the words by the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. This is a piece titled, "Let Me Die Laughing." We are all dying, our lives always moving toward completion. We need to learn to live with death and to understand that death is not the worst of all events. We need to fear not death, but life. Empty lives, loveless lives, lives that do not build upon the gifts that each of us has been given, lives that are like living deaths, lives which we never take the time to savor and appreciate, lives in which we never pause to breathe deeply. What we need to fear is not death, but squandering the lives we have been miraculously given. So let me die laughing, savoring one of life's crazy moments. Let me die holding the hand of the one I love, and recalling that I tried to love and was loved in return. Let me die remembering that life has been good, and that I did what I could. But today, just remind me that I am dying, so that I can live, savor, and love with all my heart.
Our opening sacred song is "When I Am Frightened," and our choir has been practicing these pieces so that as Joel leads us, the choir is among you, and we invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join all of your voices together.
When I am frightened, mountain, will you hold my hand? Will you be strong for me? Sing to me quietly. Will you share some of your stories with me? If you will show me compassion, then I may learn to care as you do. Then I may learn to care. When I am angry, will you still embrace me? When I am thoughtless, will you understand? Will you believe in me? Stand by me willingly. Will you share some of your questions with me? If you will show me acceptance, then I may learn to give as you do. Then I may learn to give. When I am troubled, will you listen to me? When I am lonely, will you be my friend? Will you be there for me? Comfort me tenderly. Will you share some of your feelings with me? If you will show me commitment, then I may learn to love as you do. Then I may learn to love.
Please be seated. Our contemplation today comes from Michelle, and as her role as a member of our pastoral care team. And Michelle, if you would.
Good morning, everybody. First, I want to apologize. As soon as I finish, I need to rush out because we have a flight from Phoenix to Heathrow that just got canceled that was supposed to leave in 5 hours. So I have to go home and do some magic. But I am here, and I am so glad to be here with you. I'm grateful to be part of MVUU because for me, it is such a loving, warm, supportive community that I can share my joys with and is there to comfort me in times of crisis and stress. So for those who don't know me, I am Michelle Vitastini, and I have been a member of MVUU for about 12 years. And we've been focused on grief this month, a profound part of the human experience. My background as a counseling psychologist was primarily in the field of dealing with the severely mentally ill. But I became increasingly focused on bereavement due to my own journey with grief. When I married Ray, I had the honor of becoming a stepmother to 2 wonderful boys. Matthew, the oldest one, at the age of 20, was in a car accident and resulted in a vegetative state. To honor his natural mother's wishes, we decided to just let him remain in that state and not do any interventions to discontinue his life. 20-year-olds don't have advance directives, and so we sat with Matthew for 18 years before he died of a natural death. During that time, there was a clear distinction for us between loss, which happened at the accident, and 18 years later when he died. During that time, I received the love and support of Ray, as well as additional therapeutic support and counseling to get through the grieving process. I also learned during that time to reflect on and to come to more comfort with the whole concept of death. People grieve in their own way. However you grieve is the right way to be grieving, and there is no timetable for it. So with all of this background, I decided that I wanted to volunteer at a hospice, and I went through training at Casa de la Luz, and first became a companion to folks who were dying. And the past 6 years, I have been working as a facilitator for their bereavement groups. Casa de la Luz provides, and I don't know if we have the screen or if it's going to be at the end, contact information, but they provide bereavement services free of cost to anybody who's in the community. There are drop-in groups, there are workshops, there's individual counseling, and events to support people who are dealing with their losses. There is great comfort in sharing with people who get you, who understand what you're going through. Friends and family want to be able to be there, want to say the right things, but to sit with other people who are really in a stage like you are really feels intensely supportive. I have witnessed people enter with their acute pain and go through their grief journey and evolve stronger and more peaceful. And that is what I hope for everyone, as since all of us at one time or another have grieved or will be grieving, it's really important to use other resources that are there. I've provided to MVUU 2 copies of what I consider to be the handbook on grieving and hope, and it's Alan Wolfert. It's called Understanding Your Grief, and there are 2 paperback copies that are in the library. I encourage you to use them. They make a world of difference for people. For further information and to register for services, when the contact information is shown, call Casa de la Luz, ask for the bereavement department, and they will advise you how to register for the different opportunities that they have. I would just like to end it with a poem that I usually use in the group, and I think it kind of sums up my feelings about grief. I had my own notion of grief. I thought it was a sad time that followed the death of someone you love, and you had to push through it to get to the other side. But there's no pushing through, but rather there's an absorption, adjustment, acceptance. And grief is not something you complete, but rather you endure. Grief is not a task to finish and move on, but an element of yourself, an alteration of your being, a new way of seeing, and a new definition of self. May your journey be soft.
Thank you. In addition to the resources that she mentioned, we also have our pastoral care team. I serve on that, as does Michelle, Tom Bunch, Sally, and Joel. If you ever need a listening ear or more resources, please let us know.
While the choir comes up and gets in position, that's your cue. I'd like to say that this lovely piece by Ruth Huber, who is Gala Chorus's friend and colleague. She's in the Greater Bay Area with the San Jose, a couple of different San Jose ensembles, last I heard of her. This was written to the memory of Gwen Araujo, who was a young trans woman murdered, essentially, for being trans. And it's a different way of standing up to grief by saying, we remember, we are here, and we sing together in the memory to help us process.
Gonna catch my breath. The Raven was published by Edgar Allan Poe in 1845. It was an instant success, and it made Poe instantly famous in America, but never brought him fortune. It was recognized for its melodious poetry, its mythological references, and its supernatural bent. It was panned by critics for being a ghost story that wouldn't frighten a child. Unitarian transcendentalist Margaret Fuller praised it, while Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "I see nothing in it." Unlike Poe's other works of poetry and prose, engulfed in mystery and the macabre, The Raven is a tale of grief gone wrong. When he did write about grief, they were lamentations, expressions of heartache and longing. The Raven goes beyond. Though it's rhyme and meter, it's calling up biblical, Greek and Roman, Norse and folklore, it's angelic and diabolical mysticism, and depicts a downward spiral of grief experienced in isolation. In this light, The Raven is a cautionary tale of how not to grieve. Sarah Tidal Bolton, in her published eulogy on the death of Edgar A. Poe after he passed in 1864, wrote, "Though didn't seem like one benighted, one whose hopes were crushed and blighted, mourning for the lost and lovely that the world could not restore. But an endless rest is given to thy heart so wrecked and riven, thou hast met again in heaven with the lost and loved Lenore, with the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. She will leave thee nevermore." Lenore is in quotes, for there was no woman in Poe's life named Lenore. But he did know great personal loss and deep mourning. By accounts of family and friends, he suffered from depression. These were things he bore alone. Through his writing of his emotions and experiences of loss, he directs us to a new way. Heading his cautionary tale, another path opens where grief and loss is shared, and love and life, and perhaps even laughter, is restored.
Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, "tapping at my chamber door. Only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow. Vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, that rare and radiant maiden who the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rushing of each purple curtain thrilled me, and it filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before. So that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, that it is and nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, or "Madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is, I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure to hear you. And here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore?" This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Here I flung the shutter, then with many flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon the bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum that a countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shraven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven, "Nevermore." Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculpted bust above his chamber door, with such a name as Nevermore. The raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if in hid soul that one word he did outpour. Nothing further than he muttered, and not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. And then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by so reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, and straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. And then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. And this I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. In this and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushioned velvet's lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating o'er she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he has sent thee, respite, and neopenthe from the memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff, the kind nepenthe, and forget the lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed thee ashore, desolate, yet all undaunted, on the desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. And quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, I said, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or dove, and by that heaven that bends above us, and by the God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if some indistant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted raven whom the angels name Lenore. Clasp a rare and radiant raven whom the angels name Lenore. And quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of the lie thy soul has spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart. Take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the placid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. Birds in their feathered flight have long captured the imagination of prophets and poets. The freedom of a creature capable of taking to the sky, leaving behind all earthly things, has soared through our imaginations and nested in our religions and in our cultures. And as all good mythology and the stories and tales and symbolism they bring of birds, well, they are all just a reflection in our own image. They can reflect back on our hopes and dreams, happy as a lark, graceful as a swan, proud as a peacock, and they can reflect our fear and our terrors, craven as a raven, as we have already heard. Perhaps one of the greatest symbols reflected back to us is how it is that we gather, that birds of a feather flock together. We have named those grim flocks as an unkindness of ravens or a wake of vultures, or even a murder of crows. We have silly ones, a gaggle of geese, a raft of ducks. I have to think about that one for a second. Or a waddle of penguins. And there are those that reflect our hope, a marathon of roadrunners, a wisdom of owls, a congregation of plovers. We have enlisted flocks of birds to name us at our worst and our silliest, and always in our potential. In our original poem, to be shared next, we pay homage to Poe's The Raven, but more than that, we reflect back the laughter and the joy we share in our gathering.
Once upon a Sunday dreary, as we gathered, hearts grown weary, over many a solemn thought and sorrow we did explore. While we pondered, deeply sighing, suddenly there came a crying, as if someone softly vying to join us on this sacred floor. "'Tis a guest," we whispered shyly, knocking at our chamber door. We can still remember, it was just about November, when each and all felt heavy shadows stretching across the floor. Eagerly we sought tomorrow, relief from all our lingering sorrow, in our church a light to borrow, celebrating evermore. For the radiant hope of healing within our hearts we bore, hope and healing, nothing more. Yet the silence was now broken amidst the tears that we'd awoken. A melody was clearly spoken, lifting heartache that we bore. Intrigued, our souls grew stronger, yearning for what waits no longer, in the arms of friends and strangers, lifting grief from hearts once sore. For there's magic in this chamber, in this sacred space we swore, magic we'd uncover evermore. Then, with the fluttering at the door, came a robin to the floor. Neither saint nor sinner, full of laughter and mysteries to explore, this merry bird so captivating left us all in wonder, waiting. There we were locked, not anticipating the rhyme scheme that it bore.
A nightingale sang through the night. Its melody set me upright. It first made me mad, but then I was glad. Some disruptions end up in delight. In sorrow, a heart feels like night, a darkness no moonlit in sight. But joy unforeseen, it can intervene, and sorrow takes flight in its light.
"What is your game?" we asked, with laughter in our hearts once more. Quoth the Robin,
Joy galore.
with the robin's humor showing a shared delight, our hearts were glowing. A bond was forming, ever growing as we basked in the laughter's roar. Prophet, we said, or playful creature? With your humor, you're a teacher. Easing pain, a joyous feature. Could you tell us any more?
I knew an odd duck in the park who wished it could sing like a lark. All day it would quack, though a tune it would lack, its melody still made its mark. In grief's dark and loneliest hour, there is strength in your heart's singing power. With your voice pure and true, sounding only for you, in song you make hope like a flower.
Oh, dear bird, we cried, you're mending the heart's feeling sore. Quoth the robin,
always more. There once was a penguin named Leon, whose life was quite gloomy, not fun. On an ice floe so wide, with new friend by his side, his heart danced as his sorrows were done. From our care for each other, it seems, joy arises from sorrow and dreams. Sharing suffering and woe, we help others grow. Joining hearts, a new light softly gleams.
The robin, full of zest and spirit, had us laughing. We could hear it. Keep going, we would cheer it, each laugh growing stronger than before. Then said the robin,
in the joy of shared endeavor, we find strength and hope together. I could go on and on forever, but that's work incomplete, therefore.
The robin stepped aside, and each in our turn we tried, as our tales of joy and grief we outpoured. In community sharing and listening, sides splitting and teary eyes glistening, the robin perched gently, whistling. Our work began feeling less like a chore.
Bravo to all.
The robin cheered as they spoke the door they neared. The time had come that we all had feared. Don't leave us without an encore.
The robins are fun, clever birds who like to write plays on their words. Some short and some long, most often in song, and always the best thing you've heard. In our world, joy and pain intertwine, their connection a mystery divine, not apart but as one, shared dance under the sun, when our paths we allow to combine.
The robin stopped and turned to us just before it reached the door. Quoth the robin,
together soar.
Grief, though heavy, can be lighter when we share with each inviter. So we lifted our hearts higher in this church forevermore. For together we discovered healing from our grief and so much more. Love, growth, and laughter at our sacred core.
Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Sunny and Drew Aslam are members of our congregation. They sojourn away from us during the summer heat, and lately they've been longer away than they would like because they have been making time for treatments for Drew's cancer. She is doing well. But they have recently shared with me and then have invited me to share with you that Sunny has recently been diagnosed with a new and aggressive cancer. The week after they named this, I received a package here at the church from Sunny. It was his book, I Was Beheaded by Sunny Aslam. It's a screenplay that he had written, and inside it he inscribed to Reverend Matthew, "Something to make you laugh. Sunny, 2023." And it is something of a very grim parody. First, I want to thank Sonny for his trust in sharing his diagnosis with us, and then for his wisdom, knowing that we are with him, even though he is not here and will be seeking treatments in the new year, and his wisdom that we need to laugh when we are ready. There's so much going on in our world, so much going on in each of your lives. And we come here and trust one another with that. We come here knowing that there is a balm just in our gathering. As we know that however we must grieve, however we feel loss or heartache at war, or deep sorrow at mass shootings, that we should never be alone. That we should never be alone. I invite you now to a time of meditation, of breath, and of centering, of being present to the grief and to the joy, the sorrow and the laughter that we are holding as we hold one another. And hear the words of a poet, Jane Hirshfield, as she names what we know, what it is to be a person. To be a person is an untenable proposition, odd of proportion, upright, unbalanced in body, feeling, and mind. Two predators, eyes face forward, and yet always seem to be trying to look back. Unhooved, untaloned fingers seem to grasp mostly grief and pain, and to create, too often, mostly grief and pain. Some take in witnessed suffering pleasure. Some make in witnessed suffering beauty. On the other side, a creature capable of blushing, who chooses to spin until dizzy, likes what is shiny, demands to stay awake even when sleepy, learns what is basic, what acid, what are stoma, nuclei, jokes, in which birds are flightless, learns to play four-handed piano, to play, when it is needed, one-handed piano, hums, feeds strays, says, all together now, on three. To be a person may be possible then, after all. Or the question may be considered still at least open, an unused drawer, a pair of waiting work boots. We make possible our being human. We make possible our being human, this wonderful, horrible, terrible, awful, fabulous life that we have. We make possible being human together. May it be so. In all of the days that we share, the days to come and the days long after, we are here because we choose it to be so. Amen. Our closing hymn, our sacred song, is Sing of Living, Sing of Dying. And I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and with Joel's lead, join your voices together.
Sing of living, sing of dying. Let them both be joined in one. Parts of an eternal process, like the ever-circling sun. From the freshness of each infant, giving hope in what is new, to the wisdom of the aged, deepened by a long review. Open to a deeper loving, open to be joy of care, searching for a higher justice, helping others in despair. Through the tender bonds of living, in a more inclusive way, to the open more to suffering from the losses of each day.
How about now? There it is. All right. Mesquite Madness. Today is the last day to make donations for this annual fundraiser. Get excited. They can be big or small. We love to have community building events like dinners and parties, but we also need gift cards and services. If everyone here would donate something, the auction would be a huge success. So please talk to the team during fellowship today. Next. Oh, so we will be doing a general cleanup, the outside of the church on, my brain today, guys. Saturday, November 4th, starting at 8 a.m. We will be trimming vines and bushes, as well as cleaning up the parking lot. So please join us to make our church ready for the coming year. For more details, contact Warren or Vince on the Buildings and Grounds team. Next Sunday, we renew our congregation's tradition of MVUU Meet Yourself. So check that out. One more. And now, our 7 altars at MVUU have changed. These few weeks around Halloween, Dia de los Muertos, All Hallows, and Samhain, our altars have been, Samhain. Our altars have become invitations to pause and reflect on the many meanings of this time of year. So please explore our building and experience as many altars, our many altars, or as many as you can find. Challenge. If I can just say one quick thing before we release our flame. I just want to say, with as much global grief and a wave of personal grief that I have been experiencing this month, it has been a true treasure to be able to bookend this month on grief in art and joy and laughter and celebration together. So thank you for that.
To laugh is to risk appearing the fool. To weep is to risk appearing sentimental.
To reach out for another is to risk exposing our true self. To place our ideas, our dreams, before the crowd is to risk loss.
To love is to risk not being loved in return. To hope is to risk despair.
To try is to risk failure. To live is to risk dying. So let us go weeping and laughing and loving and living, risking, risking, risking together. One of my favorite little jazz pieces on the topic of joy, Clifford Brown, incredible young trumpet player in the early 1950s, unfortunately died at the age of 25 in a car accident on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Joy Spring.